Pleasant good afternoon to everyone this evening. I am Narissa Forrester Barnard, the Community Facility Coordinator of the Faisabad Regional Community Complex. And on behalf of my colleagues at the Monrepo Regional Complex and the Sangre Grande Civic Center, I want to welcome you all to our webinar series for Entrepreneurship Month. The Future is Business. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And to those who are joining for the fourth time, because this is our fourth session, I want to give kudos to you for sticking with us throughout. This evening, we have a powerhouse packed for you all. And I hope that you'll enjoy the session, and I hope that you'll are edified by what Mr. Lara has put together for you all. I just want to draw your attention to the house rules that we're keeping our mics muted and we are keeping our cameras off until the question and answer segment comes up where we can ask questions. I would like to ask you to put your email address or your WhatsApp contact information in so that we can communicate with your slides and other information from the program. Without further ado, I wish to hand you over to your host for this evening, Mr. Dezi Lara.
Thank you, Narissa. All right, well, once again, it's your host. All right, Dezi Lara, and a blessed and prosperous evening to you all. Well, we have now made it to the fourth session in this journey where we have been, assisting entrepreneurs from the concept of their business to the launch. Now, the past three sessions, what would have happened before, where we commemorated the Entrepreneurship Month, our running theme has been The Future is Business. And I would like to take this time, seeing that it may be the last, time for our sessions here, but the journey will continue, to congratulate the members, every one of them, the hardworking members from the different community-based organizations, Narissa and the team, for putting together such a wonderful session for entrepreneurs. Now, looking back on what we would have done before, the objectives was to help entrepreneurs, as I said, launch. And there was very good reason that this journey is not a series and was never mentioned as a series per se, but as in sessions, because a journey begins at a starting point and it has to go towards a destination. It also implies continuous progressive steps, towards a particular goal. And this has been no different. And I'm really hoping that all of you who would have taken the time to join with us would have really received valuable information that you can take with you to implement during your progression as an entrepreneur. Now, for some, and this may be unfortunate, for some of you, this will not be the end, and I'm sure of it. And there's a good reason why I'm saying that. Mainly because there are those who would still would be dabbling. And we all know that in the journey of entrepreneurship, the rewards goes to those who are decisive and who are committed to being persistent and consistent. And that's what would have been shared in our last session. And this trumps intensity. Nice. And the back end of our session, you will have to make a decision. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you'll have to make a decision. And for those of you who received value and well aware that there was only so much that could have been done during these hour and a half sessions, you'll have to make a conscious choice. And it's either to stop dabbling and go all in and continue along with me in this journey to becoming successful entrepreneurs. So I congratulate you in advance. Nonetheless, we would briefly go over what would have taken place in the first 3 sessions as customary. The first session, we would have spoken directly towards 5 key elements that would have been important for entrepreneurs to successfully launch their business. We would have spoke directly towards beliefs, visions, having the idea, having that written down in a business plan, and then last but not least, the implementation. And all these elements came together as key points that every entrepreneur should at least be aware of as they start their journey. The following, or the second session, we would have spoke towards ethical entrepreneur ethics and adding value to the marketplace. And this would have been tied in or combined with, having that right mindset, to really be successful entrepreneurs. And we would have followed that up with our third session, which would have been with 3 esteemed guests who would have shared, which were real life entrepreneurs, not made up ones, but real life entrepreneurs who would have came in at different points in their journey. We'd have had a young lady who just started, then we would have connected with a gentleman who would have been just under 10 years in business, and then the last person would have been at least 30 years in, and they would have been giving their various perspectives on the things that they would have come across, things that they would have done, things that would have worked, and give insight, into what it takes to continue along in this journey. So I would have hoped that each one of you who would have taken the time would have really and truly been empowered, and motivated, not just motivated, but armed with useful information that you could have implemented in your business venture. Before we welcome in our 2 esteemed guests, yes, this evening we'll be having 2 persons with us. I'll just take a quick check to remind participants, those who are here in the Zoom chat, and those who are also viewing live on Facebook or on YouTube platform, that you should know by now to have your pen and paper at your side, well, your pen in your hand, your paper in front of you, to take notes, because I promise you, yes, some material will be shared, but I promise you the words are going to be shared tonight are going to be impactful, because these words are going to be dealing directly with your business plan. We would have promised from our first session, from day one, and as always, we aim to deliver. All right, and with that, we'd like to bring on board our first esteemed guest for the evening, Miss Alette Liz Williams. All right. Nurse, do we have her on?
Yes, I am here.
Hi, Miss Williams.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. All right. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction so that the audience know who you are. All right. And we'll move forward from there. All right, ladies and gents, Miss Williams will be going through the key elements of an ideal business plan. Ms. Williams is a PR and communications consultant who helps entrepreneurs with advertising, copy, campaigns, and client engagement. She's the founder and CEO of Outright Concepts. She's also an academic research consultant for mature students. Thank you so much, Ms. Alette Williams, for taking the time and joining us here this evening. The floor is all yours.
Welcome, everybody. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be before you, speaking about the key elements of a business plan. So before we go into this session, I'm going to give you all a little bit of a warning. I am a visual person and I am a storyteller. So how I will relay this information to you will be in visuals and in story. And you can feel free to put in the chat anything you want to. I will be looking at my chat. I do pay attention to those things. So if you have any comments or questions, I could quickly glimpse and give you a moment of time, but I won't be too long. I'll just give you what you need, because the next speaker is going to definitely top and layer what I am going to present to you this evening. So as I share my screen, first of all, I just want to get an idea of the persons who are actually in the chat. So is there, is anyone here an entrepreneur? Yes, no, or maybe, or has anyone had an entrepreneurial idea and hasn't gone into it as yet? Or have you been an entrepreneur for some time and you're looking to pivot, had to pivot, or possibly maybe are restructuring or trying to strengthen your position? If you are, you can please let me know in the chat. New, Cleo, okay, great. Yes, so we have some, yes, Teresa. So if any one of you have registered a business or thinking about registering your business, one of the things they ask you for in the bank is always a 3-year projection, or they want you to have a business plan in place with your stamp and so forth in order for you to open a bank account. And even though I've been an entrepreneur for some time, before I became a full-on entrepreneur, I would have been having 2 side hustles. And I took the decision to actually go and register my business because I wanted something formal, and I wanted to say that, you know, my business is registered, and I wanted a separate account because I wanted to see how much money I was getting from my side hustle, which is now my full-time career move. But in doing this, there were some things that would have transpired during that journey that I may not have initially thought were necessary, but I had to put in place in order to get certain things, especially the grant when COVID happened, right? So on my screen here are the elements that are necessary for a perfect business plan. Now, I'm not saying that you may do it perfectly, but if you have an idea in place, a business opportunity, you definitely need to have these things in place. And so this is where the little story is going to come in, because you're seeing bubbles on your screen, you're seeing business plan, and you're seeing all of these 6 things here. But I'm going to tell you a story that will show you how these things manifested, but they weren't necessarily what I knew had to be in structure, but my journey made me realize these things were necessary. So we're going back, all the way back to primary school. And you have this little girl who is being bullied, and she is unable to connect with friends. So every single lunchtime, her way of getting away from being bullied was to tell stories. So when someone came to her, or anybody, a story would come up, and she would just decide that she's going to elaborate, you know, sprinkle a little extra on the story, because at the same time, it sounds a little boring when you're just calling out the normal facts, right? And what made her capable of telling good stories was the fact that her mother, who happens to be looking at her right now, her mother happened to be the type of person that made her do things like read her dictionary and learn antonyms and synonyms and all of these little things in between, and rewrite essays because they weren't strong enough. And I did a lot of reading. This girl did. And then every single lunchtime, right before the bullies came, a story would start. And before you know it, we would be sitting down in the drains in school, and we would be telling stories to each other. But my stories were always the most outstanding. And after a while, every lunchtime, everyone started to look forward to hearing the stories that were brought. Thing is, after a while, they started to run out of stories, so you had to start to make up stories, right? But there and then, a personal brand was being crafted. So this was my time, and this was my stage. Very soon, I realized that the stories weren't keeping everybody. So I thought to myself, I need to be likable in some other way. And around that time, for those who like Tulum and Char and Chalta and Red Mango and Ping Pong were my thing, and I loved snacks. And I thought if I share these snacks, then I'd probably get more friends, right? So what happened was I started thinking, how do I tell a story to be able to make them want to be my friends? But what can I put there to make them come if I didn't have a story? And so at home, my mother, who's looking at me right now, had a bowl full of jewelry, right? And I thought to myself, one day, I'll just probably wear one of these things. It will make me look a little bit more, it will make me stand out a bit more. So I wore a ring, but I always had small fingers, so I had to wear it on my thumb finger. And when I got into school and everybody said, it was like, oh my God, where did you get that ring? And the story came. And they told the story. And then eventually it became something that they looked forward to. So it wasn't only me telling the story, it was also the story, the item that went with the story. And pretty soon I thought, okay, I'm only getting 50 cents for snacks, but I want snacks worth $3. And I have a story and I have this item that everybody likes. So at 8 years old, the little tickers in my brain went off and I was like, you know, you can get to wear this ring if you can give me $1. and and then one thing led to another. Yes, they decided, I'll give you $1, and the dollar went into snacks. Now let's just say I wasn't good at financial management at that point in time, but I had a description, I had a product, and I had a brand. I knew inside of my school space, there was no one else that was doing what I was doing. So essentially, aside from figuring out what my business model was, which I didn't know what was a business model at the point in time, I understood that my objectives were that I need snacks. And I knew my mission was to make sure that other persons paid for my snacks, right? And then I realized no one else was doing what I was doing. So in my industry, I had no competitors. The market was literally mine, and the trend was what I made it. So I had already conquered two very important elements of my mental business plan. In doing the market research, it was me just asking questions. Would you like to wear this ring? How do you think the ring is looking on your hand? And then they asked, do you have anything else? And I said, of course I have something else. So I went into my mother's jewelry bowl. And I took her bracelets and her chains and I brought it to school. Variety. How about that? So my sources of data collection were through questions, which now would be questionnaires, right? And I analyzed based on who asked me what. So there were some students that didn't get as much money, so they didn't get these things. And I would vary the prices according to who was, because in my mind, I wanted Shana, Chalta, Red Mango, Ping Pong. But it wasn't like I was deciding that this is where I wanted to go. This was actually happening to me, and I was really quick on the draw in making it out. So then the structure had to come in place. There were tiers, there were pricing structures, but I had no team because I could not trust anybody with my mother's jewelry, okay? But my operations were on. At lunchtime, if you want something, I show you what it is, and then you tell me which one you want, and you will have to pay the price for what that is. I would not drop I was a monopoly, so I didn't have to change my prices, you understand? But then another element came into play. There was a young girl that had a wedding to go to. This is when I knew I was taking off with my business, right? She had a wedding to go to and came to me, and she was the most popular girl in the school. So technically, I got myself an influencer at the age of 8. And she wanted to get a bracelet. No, it was a sapphire ring, my mother's gold ring with a sapphire stone in it for a weekend because she wanted to show off to her cousins. Well, I didn't have the license to give it to her. There was no permission because my mother did not know I was playing with her jewelry. I already had my price and my promotion and everything in place. The return on the investment, though, I had no investment. The investment, however, was fear and licks. I had to make up in my mind that if this thing went south, what I would get in return would not be money, it would be licks. But I was willing to take that chance because the profits were high. And I am laughing at myself because this story is it's just it's just it's just like at 8, I was already thinking about where would this money come to pay for snacks. That's crazy. So Miss Lady borrowed my ring and I charged her a whopping $5. And listen to me, that I was rolling in paper at $5 at 8 years old when things are like 25 cents and 10 cents and stuff like that. I'm giving away my age. Oh my God. And she borrowed it for the weekend. I got my $5. I did my thing. And then she came back in school and lost the ring in the yard. So it's not like I had insurance out on this thing. And we know by now my tail is on the line. I did not put a forecast in place. Well, actually, I pretty much kind of told myself, if she was the influence and she told other persons about what it is I was doing, then my market would reach a lot bigger. So I had already calculated in my mind, I could move up from ping pong to now buying goodie and different types of snacks, because in my mind, I forecasted if she could bring me to $5, then in a week or so, I'd be hitting $10. And I didn't think about a plan. I just thought that if I got her to be with me a little bit more often, then possibly my business would grow. That is where we're probably thinking about a partner, but I still didn't like her that much, so she wasn't going to get a piece of the pie, but she was going to be very valuable to my business. So when we ran through all of these things in my mental business plan, what essentially I had was a full-blown business at the age of 8. But my business fell through. Oh yes, it was my first failure. As quick as it went up, it came down. Because when she lost that ring, the principal found it and sis did not stick in snitching. So, my mom was in school, had to brace, I had to brace for the whooping. And my whole plan fell through. And I think we would have been nemesis after that, because I'm like, you kind of kill my business. Now I have to go back to 50 cents a day. So I say all of that to say that that's a real story. That's me at 8. And that is something that I replicated into my teenage years when I started doing things like proof editing and reading of academic papers for students. And I started calculating, if you could do this, then this would happen. So this is my brand. This is what you know me as. There are not many other persons that have the aptitude and stick-to-itiveness to continue what I'm doing. So my competitors are close to nil. I've always found myself niching in areas where other persons didn't have the fortitude to stick to what it is I wanted to do. And in most cases, my approach to market research would really be through asking the market what they wanted. And in some cases, they tell you what they want. And in other cases, they suggest other things that you should do. My teams have always been small up to now because I've restructured my business more than once. But technically, the elements that you see on your screen right now make up my business plan. All of these things, and the next speaker will go more in depth into certain specific areas that are critical for your business to survive, whether or not you have a business plan documented or it's in your head. And I highly suggest that you always have your business plan documented. Now, I do have a handout that actually gives you a template of how you should write or structure your business plan. But what I want to drive home in what I am saying is this: story. What is your story? A business plan is a story. I am a storyteller. A business plan is your story. What is your brand? You have to describe yourself. What is your outcome? Who are the persons that you're going to speak to? I like to think backwards. Think about what your clients would tell someone else about your business, and think about what your haters would tell someone else about your business. Tell the story to yourself and backtrack. If this is a story that I want them to say about me, that my business is reliable, that my business is it has high quality products and services, that my business people are always accessible, that we have excellent customer service, you tell the story from the other end and work backwards. That's just a suggestion of how you can approach it. But essentially, it's a way for you to put this, because this is overwhelming. The reality is that this is overwhelming. I have multiple clients in areas, and because I'm a communication specialist, I get to hear their backstories all of the time. And I have persons who have challenges with their company descriptions. I have situations where I just have to proofread and edit their copy. I have situations where I have to look at their social media and say, okay, you know, the story isn't being told. I myself am now going through another restructuring of my own brand because I've found a new passion within my brand that is following a market trend, especially since COVID. We've all had to pivot in some way or the other. But what remains in every single thing that you do, whether it be your finances or the way that you canvas the society and the trends around you, what you must always keep at the front of your mind is, what story is this telling? Can someone clearly say, the bank going to give me money because this story seems convincing? Is an investor going to, if you watch Shark Tank, and if you don't, you should, is an investor going to say, I am going to invest in you and your business because your story is compelling? Are your customers going to buy from you because what you tell them is compelling? Because your customers are not going to see what you wrote down. Your customers are not going to see that I said this is my return on interest and this is where I project my profits to be. Your customers are seeing what is in front of them, what your brand colors are, what your messaging is, what your pricing is. They're going to see what your products are, and all of these things bleed from what your backbone of your business is, and the backbone is your story. You should be thinking about it in a holistic, think about it as a biography, think about it as your one pager that you could just share it and everybody knows everything about you. Think about it even as your eulogy. What is the story that you are telling to yourself and to the persons who interact with you? So your business plan must have these elements in them, and certain parts will show up for some people and other parts will not be relevant to other people. So before I give a close to this part of the presentation, because we do have another speaker that will come on, and I know that you'll want to ask questions and whatnot. I want to reiterate some things, because at the beginning, I know I said that I'll be telling a story, and I know that on the screen right now, all you are seeing are just these bubbles and whatnot. But pay attention to the ones that are on the outer of the circle on your screen. Your business model, your vision, your objectives, who your competitors are. Are you going to collaborate with them, or are you going to compete with them? And let me just stick a pin there and say, there is no such thing as competition in my book. If you concentrate on your clients and the story that you're telling them, and you bring them into your tribe and you develop a community, then you don't have competitors. What you have are opportunities to make a better you and a better business. And when you are developing your written plan and you look at your competitors and you see what they are doing for their tribe, inside of your business plan, when you're writing competitors, you can look at what they're doing right, you can look at what they're doing wrong. But remember that you will be doing things that are right and doing things that are wrong. And you could be the perfect product or perfect service provider. But if your story doesn't resonate with your ideal target audience, then they're going to find who they resonate with. And so when you're moving along the company description, industry profile, market research. Stop for a while. It's just a hack that I do. Stop for a while and think. When you finish receiving your data, or when you're finished canvassing your potential market size and all of that, ask yourself, what's the story? What's the story they're going to say? What's the story you're telling to them? And as you document it, you'd find that your business plan may move from 1 page to 5 pages to 25 pages. But I also want to just leave with you two tools that I think you definitely need. A business model canvas. This is a 1-pager that tells your story. I can leave these documents so that you can refer to them after. For those of you who know it, you definitely need to be using it. For those of you who don't, this is one of the best tools that you can possibly have. It tells you who you need to focus on in order for your business to be solid from the get-go. And then we also have your value proposition canvas, which is you dealing directly with your customer segments. You're focusing on what their pains are and what gains they can get from what you give them. How are you solving their pains? They're showing you what your customer actually does. So we call it an avatar. So you say your ideal customer, if you're a spa, your ideal customer is the woman who is hardworking and she's stressing out a bit and she needs relaxation because she doesn't know about work-life balance or work-life integration. So how are you going to deal with that? Well, for this client, we're going to have manicures, pedicures, massages, but we're going to add a twist to it and make sure that they have rose petals in their stuff all of the time, and we send them something from the birthday club. This is what you are dealing with when you deal with your value proposition canvas. So on the end is the client, and on the other end, you're figuring out how you're dealing with those different situations. These things, I have links for them so that you can read what exactly you need to plug into which areas. And I also have a handout that you can have that will tell you how to formulate your business plan. And my colleague after is going to go into the elements that are critical for your business plan and your business to be solid, viable, and profitable. So I will close off. I'm not going to go much longer. I'm just going to close off by saying I hope you understood the story of the 8-year-old whose business failed, but it was the beginning of something new. It was the beginning of a mindset that replicated often. And moving on, I hope that you all totally consider what is your story and what is the story of your clients and what they will say about you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Now the floor is open for questions. And while we wait on Miss Cleo Wells is up and has a question for you. Yes, Miss Wells, you can.
Hi.
Hi, great afternoon. I had a question. Thank you very much for the gems on the business plan and the BMC. My question was earlier, when you were telling the story, you made mention that you didn't have to choose your price because there was no monopoly on what you were doing at that time. And so I got a little challenge in my head there. Maybe I misunderstood what you said, but I have a new business. And when I did my pricing and costing, I realized that persons who are doing the same thing that I am doing were, I don't want to say undercharging. I don't know how they came up with the prices that they have. My pricing and costing, my price was much more than what they were charging. Now, that didn't faze me, but am I to understand by you saying that you didn't have to choose your price because there were no monopoly, that you choose your price based on what other persons, I don't want to say competitors, but you know what I mean?
Right. Yes. Okay. So
I'm wanting to go that way. They choose their price because I don't know why or how.
Right. So the thing about the price setting is that Back then, I set my price based on what it is I wanted to get, right? And I made sure that the gap was closed with what I provided. So I was the monopoly. There was no one else doing what I was doing. So, and that happens with monopolies, right? Because monopolies, they can go all the way up here and nobody else could challenge that. In your case, seeing that there are other people that are doing what you are doing, you are charging based on things like the cost of production or placement or advertising and all of these other things. And of course, an envisioned profit margin. But just remember, a pen, so a stocking sold by Louis Vuitton could be the same stocking that you're going to get from another person in Pennywise. But what is the differentiator is the brand and the quality and status associated with the brand. So go ahead and charge what you believe is the value of what it is you are putting on the market. You just have to match it. Because when someone else goes to their competitor and they see that, they must say, nah, I'll pay her price because she's giving me excellent quality. Her customer service is on point. I know that she's accessible. I know that I can come back and get a renewal, or if I have a complaint, they will deal with it efficiently. Persons pay for you and they pay for the brand. What is the story that they're going to tell about you that is going to make them lock into your community and become part of your tribe and convince other people that you are the one to come to, regardless of your price? That should be your real focus.
Thank you kindly. I have one last question. I don't want to hug this.
Sure. No problem.
What are the services do you offer?
I do public relations and communication strategies. And inside of that, my business has two arms. I also do academic research assistance and everything to do with that, proofreading, editing, formatting, and all of those things. So I'm a mixture of a teacher and a doer. So on the communication side, I go into businesses, I look at their communication strategies, and I show them how to translate that to the audiences that they want to connect to.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. If you might have me just add, now there's always issues when it comes to entrepreneurs creating their price points. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we know that it becomes competitive, especially when the industry becomes commoditized. In other words, persons are looking directly at price, lowest price. Now, the experience I would have had is that most entrepreneurs have difficulty communicating their value. You know, and what I would say to Ms. Wells is that you shouldn't be afraid to let persons know what you bring to the table and allow them to appreciate that through your pricing. No one expects the best service to be the cheapest. So in a matter of providing your service, ensuring that you do everything within your power to ensure exceptional customer care, exceptional delivery of product or service, whatever have you, the reason for your price would be made known. And persons would respect that, and you will get the clientele that you deserve. All right. As one of my mentors always say, we have to alienate ourselves and our worth to attract more people. But what we really want to do is keep our price, keep our worth to attract the right people. So that would be my advice to you, Mrs. Wells.
Thank you, thank you.
And just to close off, I know it is overwhelming and it's a lot, but all of you have the ability. All of you have it. You have the ability. Persons like us, we just give support. We give assistance, we give guidance, and we provide services that can take away certain things, but you have the ability to do it. And so I am still available if anyone wants to ask questions even after this. I've put my contact in the chat, my website and my email address. So, and the documents, I don't know if Desi will email it to you all or if you want me to upload it, but those are all available for anyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Williams. And that is why we have encouraged persons who would have come on the chat to put their emails in so that we can email all the material given through the session to them after we are finished, after we are completed our time here. And is there anyone else who would like to take an opportunity to ask Ms. Alette Liz Williams? I'm calling by her full name. Anything else as she's here right in front of you? While we wait, I'll just take 2 more seconds here because I want to bring on our second host, well, our second guest, sorry. Some key things that you would have pointed out, that I would not have taken the time to think about before, is that whole idea of having set in your mind while you're writing your business plan, what you would like, not only your raving customers to say about you, but the haters as well. And for anyone with it, you should definitely write that down, because we often alienate that there are persons that may not be too fond of us or our service, and the messaging that they send out as well. We should consider what they have to say or what they have to tell others about us. That was really powerful.
We have a question. Oh, yes. We have a question. Avril, for those of us already in business for a while, does it make sense to go through the process of creating a business plan? And yes, I created one in 2017 and I'm revising it again. When you have a documented business plan, it gives you the opportunity to measure yourself. You cannot move if you don't measure, and you cannot measure what you don't know. So back when you were creating your business plan, you may have had certain goals in front of you. And as you grow in business, you may have to shift. So maybe you need to revise your core values, or maybe you need to refine your vision, or maybe there are some, your business model isn't working, so you need to reshift it. It's a good way for you to go back so you can move forward. So it helps you kind of close gaps. It helps you recognize opportunities as you grow in business. So I definitely believe that everyone should have a business plan and at least revisit it. How often do I review my goals? Well, I review my goals every 6 months to a year because, and even when I am working for clients, I always tell them I could do a full year plan for you, but what I'm going to do is revise it every quarter. And in the middle of the year, we're going to look at the 2 metrics that we would have pulled from the quarters and know where we're going forward. And it's necessary to do that because the market is very dynamic, especially with the introduction of technology. And we're going 3.0 with web, and Meta is out, and NFTs are now on the market. And so you really have to be adaptable. And in order to be adaptable, you need to have an open mindset of seeing goals. So your business is attached to your goals? Yes, it is. Always, always, always. And it's your backbone, it's your story, it's your baby. So you can go back by this and say, oh, I think I need to change my brand colors. I'm feeling more red now, because red in the market is meaning this. And people do that, and it's not wrong to change it. But you need to still have a common thread of who you are. What do they know you as, and what story are they saying to you? So when you shift, your tribe shifts with you. You understand? They will follow you where you go. But there are some people who will lock in your mind and say, hey, she's an accountant. That's all I know her for. I don't care that she's doing leadership now or whatever. I'll come to her for that. And once you can give it to them, they will come to you for it. So yeah, revise as much as you want to. But quarters are more reasonable.
Yeah. All right, folks. All right, what we will do is that we will have any further questions placed into the group chat. So that we can have our second guest come on and share with us as well. So, Ms. Williams, thank you so much for coming in and sharing such powerful words, such impactful words. I'm really sure that it would have been able to put perspectives for everyone who would have come on this evening, learning or waiting to learn more about the business plan. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Now, Thank you, Ms. Williams. So we're moving on now to our second guest. Sorry. He is no stranger to the limelight, I should say. And it's none other than Mr. Nigel Forgenie. All right, he has an extensive resume, but I'll just read out, a brief summarized version of it. So Mr. Forgenie is a self-motivated, experienced executive with a background in strategic management, business development, and marketing. He possesses immense creativity and entrepreneurial ability. Mr. Forgenie has a talent for business planning and a proven track record of delivering results. In his capacity as consulting capacity, he is currently the country coordinator for Glasswigs International, which is a non-profit organization headquartered in New York. The rest of the bio, lovely at that, will be placed into the group chat by Narissa. Can we have that placed in the group so persons could see? And we will move forward into bringing, well, he's already on the stage, but opening up the floor for Mr. Forgenie to continue into, well, dive deeper, as they say, going deeper into some of the, well, 3 key aspects of the business plan that Ms. Williams would have started off sharing with us. Nigel, pleasant good evening to you. Thank you for coming. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dezi. And again, thank you for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be able to share, any information or knowledge I have with persons who are desirous of listening and hearing. And I want to congratulate Alette because she was very comprehensive. Her story was very meaningful. And of course, she would have highlighted several areas that I think are very essential in terms of doing a business plan. Now, one of the things I always like to start with is to ask persons, I see they're saying I'm a bit far from the sound, so let me see if I could just take up my my volume. Hopefully my sound is a lot better now. Yeah.
I'm hearing you.
All right, great. So the discussion we are having is a discussion on business planning. And one of the things I like to always look at is what is the purpose of a business plan? Now, I saw, for example, Avril had asked a question with regard to doing a business plan, how often you do it, is it necessary if you're already in business to have a business plan? One of the things I always try to highlight and look at is that the main purpose of a business plan, especially when you are now starting or now thinking about getting into business, is to see whether or not the business has the potential to succeed. So if we are talking about meeting particular goals, if you're speaking about being able to meet certain targets, your business plan will give you all the ideas or put the ideas into perspective and would also help you understand what are the things you need to do to make it a success. The banks and other financial institutions will also want to see it because it will provide the same kind of information for them in terms of allowing them to see whether or not your business is going to be successful. So one of the main, or for me, the major purpose behind doing a business plan is to see whether or not your business has the potential to succeed. In today's environment, when we are thinking about doing a business plan, we have to work sometimes twice as hard. And we have to work twice as hard because of increasing changes that are taking place. because of complexity in the environment. And when I speak about increasing change and complexity, if we just look at simply what's happening as a result of COVID, you would recognize that a lot of things have started to change in the marketplace. I'm an entrepreneur, and one of the businesses which we operate, we unfortunately have to bring in our product from the US. And because of COVID and the challenges associated with COVID, the prices of items, the commodity items that we usually purchase, have increased, as well as items that we like to purchase are also in short supply. Again, it's in short supply because of the supply chains issues that are taking place all across the world. So things have become a little more complex in that now we have to do more in order to get the same value in terms of the products we are purchasing. But also there is increasing change. There is also interdependence in that now so many things are dependent on other things. So for example, to go abroad to purchase items, you have to take a COVID test. And after you've purchased your ticket, you may very well find out that you are COVID positive, and so may have to make other decisions, as well as your interdependence. So the interdependence is based on other factors in the environment that you are going to. COVID has also brought an increasing gap between rich and poor, because many persons are now finding themselves without a job, or even if they have managed to find a job, sometimes it's no longer at the same salary levels as they've had before. So we have a growing section of our community that is now not as wealthy as they were before. So there are several middle-class persons who are having difficulty in even feeding their families. And I've seen it where during the periods where students were unable to attend face-to-face classes, some parents were unable to allow their children to do the online schooling simply because they had to make a choice between providing food and paying an internet bill. So there is a lot of things that are changing in the environment. And so you have to take that into consideration when you're doing your business plan. So your business plan is always forward looking. And that's why I'm saying complexity of decision making in terms of the post-pandemic environment. So what are the things that you would have to do coming out of a post-pandemic environment? What are the opportunities? What are the things that would provide some measure of complexity or difficulty in making your business successful? Well, regardless of what we have to do, the term that is being used now is pivot. And pivoting, if you would have been a sports person, or if you're a sports person and you played netball or basketball, you would understand what pivoting means. Pivoting means keeping your position, but turning in a way in terms of changing direction so that you'll be able to still meet or score your goal. What you have to do is you have to be able to adapt. And when I was thinking about adaptability, one of the things that came to mind was differences between an African lion and an Asian lion. Now, both of them are hypercarnivores in that they eat meat, they look similar, but yet still there are differences in their size due to the environment that they live in. For example, in Africa, the game is larger, so the lions there are a lot bigger. They have a different skill in terms of tracking their prey as opposed to the Asian lion. Now, if you take an Asian lion and you put it in Africa, the Asian lion will have to adapt its skills to match that of its counterpart, the African lion, if it has to strive in the environment. If it doesn't do that, it will starve and die. So for many of us who are in business and we have been accustomed to functioning in a particular kind of environment where things are familiar, what we are now faced with is having to pivot or having to adapt to the changing environment and learn to hunt in a different way so that we will be able to succeed. So for me, the idea is really what it is that you are looking for, what it is you really want to get out of your business plan. What are the high points that you want your business to meet? And from my perspective, the three most important parts of the business plan are the marketing plan, the financial plan, and the implementation plan. And we will go a little bit deeper into these. Now, Alette had mentioned some of these. I will just share a little more perspective on them. So for example, the marketing plan, and the marketing plan really has to tell a story. You know, what's the story? What's your story? What's the idea, the product, or the service that you are exploring or bringing into the marketplace, or the product that you are currently working with in the marketplace? And I often say that anyone who has the potential to succeed in business have to be mad. They have to be mad because their business must meet a need, it must add value, or it must do something in a different way to be able to succeed. And of course, it must solve a problem. So the MAD is meet, add, or do. So if you're involved in business or thinking about getting involved in business, and that business does not meet a need, then most likely your business will not succeed. If your business does not add value to the customer, it may not succeed. If you are not doing something in a different way, your business will have a different time, a difficulty in succeeding. And if it is your business or your product does not solve a problem, then again, you can have difficulty in having a successful business. So it was meet, add, do, or solve a problem. So let me share one of my experiences as an example. Many years ago, probably like 15 to 18 years ago, I had a business. It was a roti restaurant in San Fernando. And it was an idea I had for some time. You know, I had the location in terms of where I always wanted to start this business. But I felt that I couldn't just start a roti shop and have it as Nigel Roti Shop. So I tried to find a way that I could do it differently. And so I came up with an idea of selling roti by the inch. And I know it would sound strange, but when you buy a pizza, when you buy a small pizza, medium pizza, or a large pizza, what that says to the baker, the person who is making the pizza, is that you want whether it's 8 inches, 10 inches, or 12 inches of pizza. Well, I thought about doing the same with roti, in that you could order your roti by the inch. So you could order 12, 14, 16, or 18. And at some point in time, there was a ridiculous, which was a 28-inch roti. So here I was selling roti, but I was doing it in a different way. So if you're getting involved in business, for your business to be successful, one of the things you have to do in your business plan is you must work out how your business is meeting a need, how it is adding value, or how it is doing something in a different way, or what problems you're going to solve. The other thing is that you have to look at the assumptions that you are making when you're doing your business plan. Now, remember, your business plan is future oriented. And because it's future oriented, there are a lot of unknowns. There are a lot of things that you don't know for certain. And so you have to make assumptions. One of the difficulties most of us have in making our assumptions is really, what is the size of the market that we are targeting? There are some of us who think that we have this wonderful product and that it will do well, but we have no idea as to the size of the market. Nor do we have an idea in terms of the distribution of the market, meaning in terms of the way in which your target market purchase the item. You know, there's no idea in terms of your potential customer segments. You know, are your customers or potential customers persons from the middle class? Are they persons from the lower income levels? Are they persons from the upper income levels? Are these persons who buy these items regularly? You know, what is the market reach? You know, are you able to reach the market from where you are situated? You know, you may have a fantastic product, but you may live all the way down point and your market may be in Toko. You know, so what are the things you will do to be able to get your product from point 14 to Toko? And then there's the whole concept or the whole question of your business level strategy in terms of how are you going to position your product or your item. And, you know, earlier, Ms. Wells, Cleo Wells was speaking about pricing, and Alette answered very appropriately. But the issue with pricing has a lot to do with your product in terms of whether or not your product, as Dezi has said, is a commodity product, or whether your product is something that is unique, and so you can see it as a differentiated product that you could charge a little more from. Let me just go to the next slide and explain a little more. Just to make sure, are you all following? Are you there with me?
Locked and loaded, Nigel.
Excellent. Excellent. Right. So when we are talking about looking at your market, you know, who are you targeting? What sort of strategy you're going to use? That this would help a lot in terms of your pricing strategy. There are two main things that we look at. One is in terms of cost and the other is in differentiation. But that itself divides itself into two other areas. So let me just explain it based on what I have on the slide. So when we're talking about cost leadership, we are talking about selling a product in the whole market. So I tried to use the example of a bakery because I felt it was easy to explain all four segments. So in terms of cost leadership, in a large bakery, whether it's Kiss Bakery, whether it's Quelo Bakery, whether it's Miss M's or somebody else, we're talking about a bakery that supplies bread to supermarkets, to parlors, to shops throughout Trinidad and Tobago. When you're involved in that kind of market, the product is what we call a commodity product, in that there is no difference, no major difference between Kiss and Quelo or some other bread. And so once there is no difference, the only thing you could compete on is on price. So you find that the prices would fluctuate. They will go a few cents less or a few dollars less, but that is the only way in which they could compete because your products are the same. In terms of differentiation, differentiation happens where you have a unique product. So this is a product that you would have developed. So for example, rather than a large bakery, you have decided to differentiate by doing French pastry. So you are doing different kinds of French breads, different kinds of French pastries. You are doing breads that has a higher value with nuts and grains and seeds. And so because your product is a different product or differentiated product, you have the ability to charge a higher price than the large bakeries because your item is a specialty item. So for example, it is one of the things that Linda's Bakery had tried to do by differentiating it itself by having a different kind of bakery product. Now, so that is in terms of cost leadership and in terms of differentiation. Now, under these two, you also have niche market based on cost. So for example, a niche market will be a smaller market that deals with a particular segment of the community. So in this instance, we have a community bakery. And the community bakery would also be cost focused because it is competing against the larger bakery. But because it's a community bakery, it can have slightly higher value products that it sells at a slightly higher cost than you would get from the large bakery. So the community bakery is a niche market, meaning that it is only there to serve persons within a certain geographic locality. In terms of differentiated focus, now this is where, for example, you also have specialty breads. All right, so it's different, but it's bread that has a specific focus. So for example, in Tobago, there is the mud oven bread, which is a specialty bread that has a different focus. It has a local focus. And so because of that, the prices here again can be somewhat different. So when you're talking about pricing, if it is you are in a market and you are doing same as everybody else, then usually what happens is the market price will be the price that most people are expecting to go at, which means it is the common price. If you go above the market price, most likely people will switch to an alternative. They would find someone else. If you go too far below the market price, people will think that your products or your services are no good because it's too low below the market price. In terms of differentiated, because your product or services are unique, you could take the price up and people will purchase it because of the value in it. So for example, if you go by, and I know that we are from different parts of Trinidad, but if you go to Pesh Pastry and they have their breads being sold at Price Smart, you could probably pay $43 or $50 for a loaf of bread because of the differentiation between that bread and what you get at the local or even at the larger bakeries. So in terms of building your business plan, you have to understand what your marketing strategy is in terms of how you're going to price your product, how are you going to compete against the other persons in the marketplace. So you look at the assumptions you make between the size of the market, whether the market is large, small, or otherwise, how it is distributed in terms of how many are in the large category, how many in the medium category, how many in the smaller category, potential customer segments in terms of the demographics. You know, are you targeting persons based on age? Are you targeting persons based on income? Are you targeting persons based on education, based on geographic spread? And of course, your market reach. How are you going to reach your market? What is the advertising medium that you're going to use for your market? Are you going to drive from Point Forting to Toko, or are you going to use some other method to reach your customers? And of course, distribution. In terms of, will your business be a business that's a brick and mortar, meaning are you going to rent a space and open a store, or rent a space to have a factory? Or are you going to do it from home and work with your customers online? So those are some of the things that you need to consider when you're looking at the marketing plan. But of course, a lot of it is dependent on the product or idea in terms of whether it meets ads, does something in a different way, or solves a problem. And this is the reason why your business plan is a plan that helps you see whether or not your business has the potential to succeed. Because if your business doesn't do any of these things, then I want to put it to you that it's an uphill battle for your business in terms of being able to meet its goals. Now, the marketing plan feeds into the financial plan. And the financial plan really is what tells you whether or not your business is dead or your business is alive. And the things that we need to understand, or the main thing, is that your marketing plan provides most of the information for your financial plan. One of the first things that you would have to know is, what is the investment cost? What is it going to cost to get you started in this business? And not only started, how much more money would be required to maintain the business as it goes along? So what is the investment cost in terms of the startup cash, as well as the money that you would need in terms of working capital to keep the business going? The other thing you need to work out is, how is it going to be financed? Is it going to be financed through your savings, financed based on friends and family loans? Is it going to be financed through the bank, credit union, government subvention, Netco? How is it going to be financed? The other thing that you have to look at, what are the assumptions you're making with regards to the frequency of sales? Now, one of the challenges, or one of the missteps that most people make, is that they do not always estimate properly the level of sales that they will have. So for me, if I am doing a business, I would usually break that business down in terms of hours, and I would look at which hours of the day are probably going to be the busiest hours. And then I would try to estimate how many persons would come in at those various times. Now, not only that, depending on the product, I also have to estimate whether or not those persons would only buy my item or my product once for the day, or several times during the day, or several times during the week, or several times during the month, because that is how I would be able to estimate the level of sales that I would have. If you are selling an item or a commodity or a product that persons purchase once every 4 or 5 weeks, then you would have to understand that you have to push yourself to increase number of customers so that you meet the level of sales. So for example, if you're a person that sells, let's say, weaves or wigs or even braids, most people would probably braid their hair or put in a weave, and it would last probably 3 to 6 weeks. So which means that customer will only come to you once every 3 or every 6 weeks to buy your product. So that is what we mean in terms of the frequency of the sales. Now, the sales will determine the kind of revenue that you're making. And I want to say, regardless of what kind of business you're doing, for your business plan and for your business purposes, you should always do your best to increase your revenue streams. Meaning that you should also see what other products you can sell in combination. And you see it all the time. You would go to a store, and that store, let's say you go to Pennywise, for example. Pennywise would sell cosmetics, but you would also go to the cashier, you'll get chocolates, you'll get soft drinks, you'll get water, you'll get other things. And that is because what they are looking at is multiple streams of income. You go to a shoe store, they would sell shoe polish, they would sell handbags, they would sell scarves. So you always have to look at what are the ways in which you could increase your revenue streams, because that would give you a good enough idea as to the kind of cash that is coming into your business, as well as the kind of expenses that you would have associated with your business. And what you do is you do a best case and a worst case scenario. So if it is, for example, you would have estimated that at the highest point in time during the day, where you expect to have the most sales traffic, you may say, well, for example, I would have 10 persons who would each spend $50 at 3 o'clock in the evening, and that'll be my highest point. But you could also say, for example, instead of having 10 people, what if I have only 3 people that purchase at my highest point during the day? What will my cash forecast look like? The other thing that you need to consider is, are the potential returns worth the risk? You have a fantastic business idea, is something you want to get involved with. But what if the cost of operating that business far exceeds the returns that you are getting from it? So recently I was advising a client, and this client had an idea for a product. But the product is a user-friendly product. And the person was paying $5 to use this product. But to use this product, they probably take it, let's say, for example, for 5 minutes. So it means that he could only make $5 every 5 minutes. So in any hour, he could only make $60. But the product requires maintenance. So when we work out, the maths of it, or the accounts of it, at the end of the day, the effort and the investment wasn't really worth the returns that he was getting from his business idea. So you have to work out whether or not the potential returns from the business is worth the risk. And of course, taking all this information, you have to do what we call pro forma income statements and balance sheets, meaning you have to project what your income statement would look like, meaning your total expenses and your total income, to see whether or not the business will be making a profit or a loss in the future. The other area in which most plans fail is in the area of implementation. So you have an excellent business plan, you have the financials right, you have the marketing strategy right, but the problem is in terms of implementation. And the problems with the implementation surround the input challenges, meaning where we don't really understand or take into consideration or put plans in place to deal with things like changes in the environment. So what happens if, for example, there is another COVID lockdown? How will your business transition? Is your business ready to adapt to online? Do you have delivery systems in place? So how are you going to implement in the face of those kinds of challenges? And then you're looking at process challenges. And some of the process challenges will be in terms of the people. Who are the people that you have that you could depend on to work this business idea with you? So when I had my roti restaurant, one of the things I understood was the key, or one of the processes was to get persons who could make rotis. And so what I did is I went and I headhunted persons from roti shops that I thought made excellent roti skins. And so I knew in terms of the people, I had the right people to do the job, as well as things such as finances. Will your finances come in on time? Will the kinds of returns that you expect during the process be able to take you through? What kind of organizational structure are you setting up? Are you going to be the sole person in the business? Are you going to have other staff? What sort of training does your staff require? How do you organize your business? And again, the key activities, looking at what are the key activities in your business and how do you organize around that. And so, as I mentioned before, one of the key activities was making roti. And so I had to make sure that I had probably at that time, to my mind, some of the best roti makers in the business to be able to provide the kind of product that I wanted. And then last but not least, key partners. Who are the key partners that you're going to work with? Key partners could be your banks, it could be your suppliers, it could also be, as Alette had said, your competitors. Because there are times, depending on the kind of business that you are in, if you get a contract, for example, to deliver a certain quantity of an item, of a product, and you do not have the manufacturing capacity, then you could team up with one of your competitors to be able to meet that demand. So you have to look at who are your key partners. And some of these things are also referenced in what Alette had spoken about in terms of the business planning canvas. So it is an essential tool really to help with your business planning. So in a nutshell, these are some of the things that you have to look at when you are thinking about planning a business, looking at your marketing plan, your financial plan, and of course, your implementation plan. Final thing in your business plan is selling your plan. Because you have to be able to communicate your plan in a way that will provide for you the kind of value and support that you require to make your plan successful. So the first thing is selecting the right audience, because your plan has to be written to meet the needs of that audience. So your audience may be your credit union or your bank or even an investor in your business. You have to know your story inside and out. You can't go to sell your business plan and you have not yet worked through in your mind all the elements of your plan. That plan, that business supposed to be something that you could close your eyes and describe each and every process to anyone who is willing to listen. You should also exude confidence. You should be confident in what you have prepared, confident in terms of your business idea, and you have to be prepared to hunt. And when I say prepared to hunt, you have to be prepared to go above and beyond the no's that you will get, especially if you're looking for finance. So it's a tedious task. And last but not least, you have to know when to retreat. Now, I say retreat and not surrender, because sometimes when we are working through a new business idea or even a current business idea, we do not always have all the pieces of the puzzle together. And sometimes we have to retreat and relook at the canvas that we are working with and come up with a different perspective. So I trust that the information I provided would have helped you in some way. And so I will now take any questions you may have.
Right. Okay, so that was a question. Not seeing anything in the chat thus far. Thank you, Teresa, for being with us. I see that she has to leave now. No, Nigel, I'll wait for persons to probably think about questions they may have to share or to ask, sorry.
Yeah, because I know it was a lot, it was heavy.
No, but I would say it, even though it was heavy, it was well served. I think it would have clarified in depth, you know, the different components in the marketing analysis, the financial analysis, and even the implementation side of things, that would have filled in some gaps for many of the participants who are here with us at this moment. So filling a question when so much comprehensive information was given, might be the challenge in this moment, you know. But I would lead off with I have a mad business idea. Thank you, Miss Kelsey Dilas. I see that you have a mad. I guess it's meeting a need, adding value, and doing something different. Yeah, definitely. We definitely want to find out more about it. Yeah, what I will lead off with is more or less what the last thing you would have mentioned is that sometimes putting forth a business plan is a bit daunting. You know, and even though you functionally have the components to work with, it feels as though where is the best place to start? Yeah. What should I do first to be able to get that comprehensive understanding of what I'm trying to deliver? What sort of advice you would have for persons who are in that situation?
Well, I think the first and most important thing is to work out whether or not the business that you are in is viable. And so we've been speaking about math because that gives a sound enough idea as to the level of competition as well as the extent of the work that you would have to do in terms of making your business successful. Too many times you see, for example, in Trinidad, somebody goes and open a business, a similar kind of business, 2 stores down from a business that's doing the same kind of thing. And so that is what I consider as hard work, because the only thing you could probably compete on is price. And perhaps you may be able to apply more variety than the other store. You may be able to add probably some more customer service. But when you do that, you're putting yourself in a very difficult position. So the first thing you have to look at is the business idea in terms of the value that you could extract from it, given the environment that you are working in. And once you have that, then the next thing is to feel the idea. Because I often tell people that entrepreneurship is a spirit. And so it's something that occupies you. You can't sleep, you can't eat. You know, it's something that takes you over and occupies you in a way that would help you overcome the difficulties or the challenges. You know, you may be getting some background noise because rain is falling very heavily here.
You're sounding very clear on my end. I'm not sure for the other participants.
Right. Yes, Ms. Wells.
I was waiting to see somebody else would ask a question.
You go right ahead.
My first to begin, I have been saying this for years. I think when you go to legal affairs to register a business, they should have some training of this sort for you before that business is registered. I think they need to have something in place. You go there to register a business, just like how when people get married, you have to do marriage counseling. I am serious. I think this training that we just got here, legal affairs should have something like this. You sit down and you go through this training before they register a business. That way you figure out, you know, but nonetheless, so for persons like myself who need this sort of information to navigate, so you might well conceptualize that your idea meet a need, you conceptualize it, add value, you conceptualize that you're doing something different, but that's just my opinion. So my thing is, you want the training that we just got here, and yes, so you started this business. Somebody made mention that they have a business running for how many years, and you get to this junction, you realize, well, wait, no, COVID happened. I now have to pivot, brick and mortar, not cutting it anymore. I don't know how to navigate social media, but I have invested all my funds, my savings, etc. in this business. I was going good prior to COVID. And now I need to pivot to online. I can't afford to get the prerequisite training that would give me the tools to do this. So what happens, to me now?
Yeah. I think it's a challenge that a lot of people are having. And so not every business is a business that could transition to online. So that's the first thing. The first thing is whether or not your business has the ability to transition online. And what are the kinds of distribution channels you now have to use? Because how a person is going to now collect your product or service that you're offering. So it is something that you have to sit down and really reconsider. It's something that, maybe someone like Alette is more inclined to offer advice on, seeing that this is what she does. But from my perspective, it's something that you have to sit down and look at what aspects of your business could transition to an online or a semi-online situation. And let me give you an example. I recently, probably like 3 months ago, saw an ad. It wasn't an ad. I saw an article in a newspaper where someone was being interviewed because they had this fantastic French bakery open somewhere in Trinidad. And I thought, right, I love French pastry. I'm going to take my wife there for breakfast some morning. And I called and they gave me directions. And I got there thinking I would sit probably somewhere outside and eat. But when I got there, I was given a box with the items. And so what this person did is they changed from being able to sit down to being able to have a takeaway kind of service, delivering the same quality, but not a similar experience as you would have had before. Now, as to whether or not that business was able to survive is another thing, but at least that person had tried to pivot. During COVID, we have a store that does wigs and weaves and braids, and we had to move to WhatsApp to do deliveries. We had to find ways and means in terms of having specific times that persons can expect deliveries. And so you just had to use whatever was available. So when we say online, it doesn't always have to be a web page and that sort of thing. It could be as simple as WhatsApp. I don't know if Alette.
But thank you. I actually pivoted online, and to be honest with you, it did fairly well. I make soap, candles, fan, body products. So when COVID happened, I was like, okay, what's happening here now? And so I attended a class, and I have to thank that woman, because to protect the innocent and the guilty, I wouldn't talk about the organization because of how I am teaching now, because my friends, what's happening? What crap is this woman telling people? And so I'm teaching now, and I never conceptualized that. That has been successful thus far. I have rave reviews from the trainees, etc. My challenge is navigating social media. That is my challenge. I am 54 years old. I'm like, what the hell? I'm too old for this. You understand?
No.
I have to do it. And so now I'm like, I never in my wildest dream did I think at 54 years old, an old person like me sitting down to try to navigate IG, and I have 800 followers and I have no clue how I got them on IG. I am clueless.
Excellent.
Clueless. But I say all this to say we need to have an avenue, because you all conceptualize all these training. And when I say you all, I shouldn't say you all, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, I'm like, where is the training for me? When I look at the training, it's for the young persons, and like they throw us in the briar patch. but we have businesses too. And so we struggle with social media. Seriously struggle with social media, don't you? But thank you all for the training. You know, I appreciated all the sessions were fantabulous. And I want to say thank you to the Faizabad Regional Corporation, whoever birthed this concept of doing this 4-week training. It was totally invaluable to me. And so for all of you who gave up the most precious commodity, which is your time, I truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you. And I will be calling Miss Williams.
Yeah, because I was now about to say you have so many streams you can, because you're talking from the instant you started to talk, my brain was just shooting off of ways to make your life easier. like they're there, the tools are there, some are free, some are not, and you just need to be directed towards them. So and that's why I appreciated Nigel's examples of even the switch, and glad that you made the switch online. But you have so much more you can tap into. So yeah, you're on the right track, Cleo.
Thank you, Kyle.
Right. Any more questions from any of the members? I think next time we have to work on expanding as well as, because I know we have quite a few persons engaged live on your live stream via YouTube and whatever have you, and Facebook, you know, connecting with those persons to get some questions in as well. Because I'm pretty sure this session would have raised, you know, a lot of questions to persons wanting to know more. All right. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, well, to my guests, both Miss Alette, you know, Alette Liz Williams and Mr. Nigel Forgenie. Thank you guys for coming on to this program and really bringing us sumptuous. You know, if it was like the delicacy, you know, right now we at Maracas Bay, you know, we by Richard's Bacon Shack. You know, this has truly been a well-received rendition. Oh, I have a question from Ms. Avril Ann. From Ms. Avril Ann, you have a question? You can go right ahead. Do you want to put it in the chat, or do you want to come on and ask? All right, we'll wait for Ms. Avril Ann to place the question in the chat. Yeah. All right. While she does that, and we wait. Someone would have asked who would have been the brainchild behind this. And it was the intuitive, insightful idea from the good folks, from the regional complex side. You know, Ms. Norris and the team would have to take full kudos. All right. For those of us who don't have access to you guys, what resources, books, etc., can we use to create our business plan? Who wants to take the floor?
Well, definitely. Definitely the business model canvas, the value proposition canvas, and the template that I created that they can send to you will give you the format for it, like what goes first, second, third. There are a number of elements in there, and what Mr. Forgenie would have mentioned will just add meat to certain areas, but most of it will be what you conceptualize and what. So once you get that down, it's really about tweaking and refining until, and you don't have to fill it up and have it too full, but it needs to be concise enough that it gives everybody an idea, and it gives you enough wiggle room so that you can come back to it and revise it if necessary, build or you know, bring it down.
You know, I would also like to add that it's like going to a boutique looking for a particular garment. You know, you just have to go online and try on some things to see how it fit. because what may be excellent support for one person may not necessarily be the same for somebody else. So there's a lot of free resources online. Try it on.
Yeah. Google and the University of YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I would have gotten mine through doing my master's because I'm doing business development and innovation. But in 2017, the good old Google was my friend, and I downloaded multiple, and then I condensed it and thought and it worked. The bank said this is really comprehensive, it's really well. But then again, I knew my story in my head, so it was just about getting the structure to plug it in. And some other persons may need just a little bit more. So yeah, to max out the internet is full of free templates also.
Definitely. And it's just as simple as typing what's an ideal business plan, some of these keywords, is successful business plans, the top 5 templates for business plan. Some of these words gives you a general direction to start.
Yeah, as well as, you could type in business plans for the particular type of business you want to start.
Yes, you can do that. And here's what I can do for everybody that's here. If you decide that you want to go ahead and do your business plan and stuff like that, I will, like, by Friday, even if you have an idea, I will just review it for free. So you could just you can just contact, and I will just review how it looks for free, and that will be okay. Just to make sure your wording is there, and just let you know how far else you can go. So, but by Friday, I have a lot to do.
All right. I see that we'll be cooking here with propylene or propane, I should say. We have a question from a gentleman, Mr. AJ, a regular. Yes, AJ.
Yes, hi. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Yes, I wanted to say something. One of the things, I'm a person who, most of the research I do would be based on Google and YouTube as well. But one of the things over the years, one of the things I realized, the things that you see, that you would see and learn from Google or on YouTube, most of it really doesn't apply to Trinidad. Now, I'm talking from experience because, when I was younger, I had my own dog training service business, okay? And I wanted to operate at the same level that I would have been seeing, clubs and dog trainers operating internationally. And, trying to do that here, I realized that I was so restricted because there were simple things that, you couldn't get available. Like, for instance, a license to use like blank firearms and different things, and those were like key things to elevate your business. Right, but because of the different restrictions and regulations they have in this country, it hampers you, right, from doing business at a higher level. So I think that that's one of the things in Trinidad that needs to change. The government needs to ease up on what I would call third world restrictions. Okay, and allow people the flexibility to operate at higher levels and not restrict them so much, because there are people with a lot of great ideas and plans, but because of the limitations in terms of being able to access certain things, these plans could hardly ever come to fruition. And I think that's one of the biggest issues and problems in Trinidad in terms of actually doing business.
I agree.
Okay. All right. Anybody have anything to speak to us on that? Or to
add? So what I would say for something like that, because that is very true. We have a lot of very prohibitive types of structures and systems, and sometimes we think it's legal, but sometimes it's really, on the governmental side. So what I've found is, in most cases, the more you know is the more you're able to navigate. And I am assuming in your situation, you may have done a lot of research and just been hitting your head against certain walls. So it may mean that there is a part of what you do that can be maximized. And then the other part that you probably really want to have manifested, you may just have to transform it into a different type of thing. So I wouldn't even look in Trinidad. So if your thing is training, I think it's dogs, you said, or something like that. And that is something that's kind of contact and it's here. And you find yourself butting your head against the wall to have that done here. I would immediately start thinking outside of Trinidad in terms of speaking about it or consulting about it, putting it into some sort of program and just shooting that outside. You have the thing is, you have the knowledge. Your knowledge is also marketable. So sometimes we pine on the physical aspect, but what happens is that there are many people out there that have the contact and the space to get things done. You have the knowledge and the expertise. So maybe you should think about marketing, packaging that and marketing it, and then slapping a US on it, putting it online, getting yourself a PayPal account, go through GMMB, and you all of a sudden you start getting paid for little, consultations or one-on-ones outside of our market. I usually don't like to think local because I think also that there are too many restrictive things here. Package, go global, full stop. And you will need some assistance with that, I know, but once you start thinking solution-based, and then you can start researching outside of the borders of Trinidad and locally. So you can let me know if that helps. Yeah, okay, great, AJ.
Yeah, I think he supports it. Well, it's coming to that point of the evening that if there isn't any more, or if there aren't any more questions to be shared, we are looking at some of our hosts coming to their time in which they would have to retreat. According to Nigel, they have to know to retreat. And it seems to be that moment. Well, that being the case, any further questions, inquiries, and thoughts that you guys would like shared, the emails that we will be sending out, feel free to connect with us via the community complex email. We also have emails from Ms. Alette that was posted in the group for persons who are interested in what she would have shared and want to dive more into her expertise and her services. Feel free. Last time I checked, Ms. Alette doesn't bite, and she's very friendly, woman friendly. Yeah. That being the case, thank you, lady and gent, for being here with us this evening. Thank you for everyone else who would have taken the time. As I said, one of the most precious commodities we have, because once it's gone, there's no way that we can replace it. And I will hand you back over to the coordinator, the evergreen, the ever-loving, the ever-thoughtful Miss Narissa Bernard, who would wrap us up and take us, how should I say, to the close of this fantastic journey for the month of November, where we would have commemorated entrepreneurs. And our theme, once again, would have been the future is business. Thank you once again, Ms. Bernard, for having me. Thank you, everyone who would have been participating and been part and parcel of the journey. And I assure you, this is not the end. It is just so long until we meet again. All right?
Thank you so much, Mr. Lara, Mr. Forgenie, and Ms. Williams, for a fabulous evening, very informative. Thank you to the participants for staying on, because as we have been saying throughout the program, we didn't foresee that the sessions would have taken us past 8 o'clock. But they have all of them. And we have participants who have stayed on until the end, and we are ever so grateful. On behalf of my colleagues, I wish to thank everyone who has participated in this series. And I think Dezi has an offer to make to you all, because everybody seems to need the information and need the assistance to move their businesses forward, or even to move their ideas forward. And I want to ask Dezi to share with us what you have in mind for us. And I want to urge you all to put your contacts in the chat so that I can forward information to you all. So the persons who have already put in the chat, you would have received information for each session. And if you send in yours tonight, you would get everything that I have sent for everyone throughout the month of November. Again, thank you everyone for being a part of this. And Dezi, please share with us what you have in mind for moving forward, because this cannot stop.
Thank you for having me. Well, for those who have remained, I congratulate you. And truly, this has been a teachable moment, not just for me, I would say, from the standpoint of all the valuable information that persons would have received and would have come on board and would have rendered. I'm pretty sure that definitely would have done the same or similar for you, or even more. That being the case, as Narissa was kindly highlighting there, is that the hour and a half, and in some cases we would have run all the way to 2 hours. Persons can clearly see that it's not enough. Much of what was shared was from the standpoint of an overview, and the challenge is to now move forward in a way in which persons could really capitalize on all these key insights, or all these powerful sources of information that would have been received, making it part and parcel of what you do in order to be that successful entrepreneur. Now, 3 things I wanted to highlight, and it would have been some major challenges that I would have faced. I think it's the best time to do so, and I'll do so quickly. And I will label them my biggest, or my dumbest moments. One was that I'm pretty sure, like many of you, you would have thought it best to quit at some point in time, because things apparently would have seemed to have gotten a little more than you can have bear. And I assure you, let that be a fleeting thought, because at the end of the day, nothing is placed in the mind, and nothing is given to you that more than you can bear, right? And that essence, I take this time to really thank, my wife for continue being that supporting bedrock, and my parents as well. Sometimes we as entrepreneurs, we find ourselves on a lonely road, and the support is what counts, even if it's from a standpoint where it could only be, hey, get up and go again. Let's continue to strive. The second dumbest mistake I would have made was trying to do too much too quickly. And when I say that, trying to manage too much things at once, and not focus on some of the key concepts that I believe entrepreneurs should. Now, the first thing that comes to mind as an entrepreneur, I'm pretty sure for many of you would be the idea how you're going to do things differently. But what we sometimes fail to realize is that in the business of entrepreneur, we have to make sales. And sales not only from the standpoint of your product or service, but sales from the standpoint, as Mr. Forgenie would have mentioned, getting others to buy into your vision, getting others to buy into your plan, getting others to recruit others to come and work with you. All of these things come from the standpoint of selling, and being able to sell is quite important. As the book E-Myth by, I think it's Michael Gerber, states that most of the times entrepreneurs are technicians first. And I often employ entrepreneurs. It would be worth every dime of it to initiate self-learning as best as you could, but also learning from the standpoint of investment within self or for self, and improving you as a person, as an entrepreneur, and really strengthening your ability to sell. Selling is just a matter of communication. I think Ms. Wells and many of us starting entrepreneurs may not understand that, yes, it's very important, your skill. But if you're looking at the growth triangle, and I speak a lot about triangles, there is a measure of having that skill. There's a measure of having that ability to sell what you have, as well as having the ability to follow up with your service or product, so to speak. And last but not least, thinking that I had to do it all alone. I know most of us would have originated or come out of systems where individualism was celebrated. But as an entrepreneur, when the winter comes, the lone wolf dies and the pack survives. And that in itself makes it very important to be around other successful minded entrepreneurs as yourself. Because the reason why many of you would have stayed here with us is because you have been yearning in some way to change your fortunes, to pivot, as Mr. Forgenie would have pointed out, and some of us have been struggling with just doing just that. And that is why we have come to the moment where I believe persons have to make a decision. Coming out of this would have spawned the need for a service that could really help entrepreneurs not just think about what they have to do and be all on their own, but we are functionally putting together here a comprehensive program, a 90-day challenge, another challenge where we would have had to go up that mountain on our own, but a challenge where we are basically building that confidence within ourselves to become the best versions of ourselves and our business in the year 2022. This 90-day program will have a 2-day live Zoom event where we'll be sharing concepts of what is the SMART Business Challenge. All right, and if I might be looking at SMART, we are looking at S, all right, it's acronyms: S, social media; M, marketing; A, automated recurring income strategies; all right, R, remote teams. Ms. Alette would know too well about this. It's all about being able to find persons at reasonable rates that could assist you. In some cases, it could even be free based on your negotiation skills, that you are able to now to network and partner to get certain things done. And last but not least, tech-centric. And this will definitely help, some of the elder folks be able to navigate some of these newer sorts of, how should I say, new nuances in business when it comes to becoming tech savvy. Now, it's not all about becoming tech savvy, but it's actually sometimes getting to know persons who can facilitate that for you. Being a business person, it's not all about you, all right? In fact, the less you depend on yourself to do everything, is the faster you'll be able to grow as a business, all right? So that is what this SMART Challenge is going to be about. It's going to be a 90-day program. That being the case, for all that you would have taken the time to join with us, we have decided to have this at a special rate, because at the end of the day, persons pay careful attention when it costs. And for us to provide the expertise, the community that is going to have successful minded persons a cost will have to be attached to this venture, and we would have settled on a price at $24.97. All right, $24.97 is for the entire 3 months. There are payment plans that would be in place, and that could really help persons facilitate this this session and this journey to become the successful entrepreneurs we all know that you are. Sometimes you just need help with it. We are launching off on the 11th. The 11th and 18th will be our first 2 live sessions where we would delve in deeply with regards to the smart aspects of your business. And the following months, we will have guest speakers, we will have experts coming in and working with you hand in hand, interactive Zoom sessions as well, to really get you up and functionally running. And that being the case, I'm looking forward. We are managing our numbers. We are looking at 15 persons thereabout. No more, because we want to be able to cater to each person. So it's first come, first serve basis. And we're really looking forward to bridging this gap and having that successful, tremendous 2022, where we're able to transition and become sustainable and scalable businesses. That being the case, further information will be sent to you guys via the emails, and we will be keeping in touch. Narissa, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you again, Dezi and your team. And thank you to all participants for taking part in this webinar series for the month of November. All the best to you all, and please keep in touch. Look out for those emails that you will be receiving, and keep safe during the course of your moving about for the rest of 2022. You can pay attention to the Monrepo Regional Complex Facebook page, the Faizabad Regional Community Complex Facebook page, and to the Sangre Grande Regional Complex for more programs that we would offer. Thank you again. Have a great night, folks, and keep safe. All the best. Compliments of the season as well. Christmas is right around the corner. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Dezi.